Either that man leaves this compound tonight, or you will be the one looking for somewhere to sleep.
Kemi's voice cut through the rain like a blade. Ronke stood at the doorway of the only room she could afford, one hand gripping her faded orange bag, the other trembling around the key. Behind her, a barefoot stranger lay weakly on her narrow bed. His shirt was dirty, his trousers were soaked. He had no phone, no wallet, not even a second pair of shoes. To everyone watching, he was nobody, a beggar, a problem. Ronke looked at him, then at the woman threatening to throw her out. And she made a decision that could destroy the little stability she had left. "Let him stay," she said quietly. "I will find somewhere else for tonight." She had no idea that the helpless man sleeping in her only room was Bode Coker, the richest man alive. But before this night was over, Ronke would lose far more than a bed. And what happened when that man finally got his name, his power, and his world back would expose something money cannot buy. So don't leave this story halfway. And before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there right now. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. If you enjoy stories about dignity, choices, and consequences that actually mean something, subscribe and stay with us. Because Ronke thought she was giving a stranger one night of shelter. She had no idea what that one decision was about to cost her. 3 hours earlier, the rain had started as a threat. One fat drop on the zinc roof of Akinyele Laundry, then another. By 6 in the evening, Ibadan had turned grey. Water ran along the roadside in brown sheets, carrying sachet wrappers, leaves, and one broken sandal past the gutter near the laundry entrance. Ronke Adebayo stood behind the pressing table with one palm against her lower back. "Madam Ronke, you will spoil your waist one day," said Mama Titi, who sold boiled eggs and soft drinks 2 shops away. Ronke did not look up from the white kaftan under her iron. "My waist has been threatening resignation since 2022, she said. "Let it submit letter properly." Mama Titi laughed so loudly that a customer waiting under the awning turned to look. That was Ronke, 32 years old, too tired to waste good complaints, too poor to waste bad jokes. She had worked at Akinyele Laundry for 4 years. The owner paid her by the week, except on the weeks when business was poor, electricity was expensive. The generator developed one fresh problem, or somebody promised to pay later and did not. So Ronkes had built small work around the small work. She washed curtains for 2 teachers on Ojo Street. She pressed church clothes on Saturdays. She repaired loose hems badly enough that no tailor would feel threatened, but well enough that customers came back. And every evening she put whatever she could spare into a brown envelope hidden inside an old Milo tin. The tin had one purpose, a washing machine, not a new one. She was not dreaming recklessly. A used machine with a strong drum and a motor that did not sound like it was begging God for mercy. With that, she could stop carrying heavy bowls of water by hand. She could take more clothes. Maybe rent a tiny shop of her own one day. Maybe. That word had lived with her longer than some relatives. "Close early," Mama Titi said, looking at the rain. "This weather is not smiling." Ronke folded the kaftan and slid it into a clear nylon bag. "I am closing now. You said that 30 minutes ago." "I was lying then." She switched off the pressing iron, unplugged it, checked the socket twice, then stood at the entrance with her faded orange shoulder bag tucked under one arm. The bus stop was only a short walk away, but the rain had made the road ugly. She was considering whether to spend money on a bike ride when she saw the man. At first, she thought he was sleeping. He sat under the shallow concrete canopy of a closed pharmacy across the road, his back against the metal shutter, his head tilted forward. Water had soaked one side of his charcoal polo shirt. His trousers were the color of dust after rain. One foot was bare. The other wore a cheap rubber slipper, several sizes too small. People passed him. A woman pulling a child by the wrist moved around him without slowing down. Two young men under one umbrella glanced at him and said something Ronke could not hear. One laughed. The man did not look up. Ronke watched for 10 seconds, then 20. Mama Titi came beside her. "Don't start," she said. Ronke frowned. "Start what?" "That your eyes." "What is wrong with my eyes?" "Your eyes have already carried that man into your problem." Ronke almost smiled. Then the man lifted his head. The smile left her. There was dried blood near his temple. Not much. A thin, dark line. His face looked wrong in the way faces look when somebody has been outside too long. Skin dry, lips cracked, eyes alert but far away. Not drunk, not sleeping, exhausted. "Maybe he needs help," Ronke said. Mama Titi folded her arms. "Maybe he needs police. Maybe. Maybe he needs hospital. Maybe. Maybe he needs to stay where he is until somebody, with money for all these mabes, comes." Ronke looked at her. Mama Titi sighed. "Go and ask him from here. Don't go close." Ronke raised her voice across the road. "Sir," the man's head turned slowly. "Are you okay?" He stared at her as if the question required mathematics. Then he shook his head. Ronke waited for traffic to clear and crossed. Mama Titi cursed under her breath and followed. Up close, the man looked older than Ronke had first thought. Maybe around 60. Graying hair, a strong face beneath the dirt, small cuts along one forearm. No watch, no ring, no phone bulging in his pocket. Ronke stopped several steps away. "Sir, can you hear me well?" "Yes." His voice was rough. "Do you know where you are?" He looked toward the road, then at the pharmacy sign above him. "Ibadan, which part?" He hesitated. "I don't know." Mama Titi made a sound in her throat. Ronke kept her tone even. "Are you injured?" "I don't think badly." "You don't think?" "My head hurts." "Did somebody beat you?" His eyes moved past her, scanning the road. That was the first thing that made Ronke uneasy. Not the dirt, not the bare foot, the way he looked at every vehicle, as if one of them might be carrying danger. "Sir," she said, "should I call police?" His answer came too fast. "No." Mama Titi took one step back. Ronke's body went still. "Why not?" "I just." He pressed the heel of his palm against his forehead. "Not yet. That is not an answer." "I know. Do you know your name?" The man closed his eyes. For a second Ronke thought he would not answer. Then he said, "Bode." "Bode what?" Silence. "Bode what?" she repeated. He looked embarrassed now, and somehow that was worse. I'm not sure." Mama Titi leaned toward Ronke. "We are going." Ronke did not move. "Do you need water?" Bode nodded. That, at least, was a question he could answer. Ronke went back to the laundry. She did not bring her purse. She brought a sealed bottle of water and the last meat pie from the glass case at Mama Titi's stall, which Mama Titi handed over with the expression of a woman being forced to finance a bad decision. Bode drank too quickly. "Slow," Ronke said. He stopped, breathed, then took smaller sips. He ate half the meat pie and wrapped the rest carefully in its paper. "You can finish it," Ronke said. "I might need it later." That sentence stayed with her. It did not sound like begging. It sounded like planning. "Where did you sleep last night?" she asked. He looked away. "I didn't. And the night before?" "I don't know." "You don't know, or you don't want to say?" "I don't know." His fingers tightened around the bottle. "I remember a room, no windows. Then another place, a vehicle. I remember running." Mama, Titi, and Ronke looked at each other. Bode continued in pieces. "I remember bush, a road. I lost one shoe. Or they took it. I don't know." "Who is they?" Ronke asked. His breathing changed. "I don't know." Ronke did not believe that part entirely, but she also saw something she recognized. Fear that was too fresh to interrogate. "Can we take you to a clinic?" This time he did not refuse. "Okay." The nearest private clinic was small, the kind with plastic chairs in a narrow waiting area and a handwritten notice asking patients not to insult staff over delays. Ronke knew one of the attendants from church, a woman named Bissy, who agreed to let Bode sit while they checked his temperature, cleaned the cut near his temple, and examined the swelling behind his ear. No dramatic announcement came. No doctor rushed from a back room shouting about a rare condition. Bode was dehydrated, bruised, exhausted. His confusion could be related to stress, lack of sleep, or the blow to his head, and if anything worsened, vomiting, fainting, severe headache, unusual weakness. He needed proper hospital attention quickly. The consultation and basic treatment still cost money. Ronke paid. She watched 2,000 naira notes leave her hand and thought of the Milo tin. Not because she regretted helping him, because poor people do arithmetic even while being kind. Outside the clinic, the rain had become heavier. Bode stood beneath the awning with a small bandage near his temple. "I will pay you back," he said. Ronke looked at him. "With what?" For the first time, something almost like amusement touched his face. "That is a fair question. Do you have anybody you can call?" "I'm trying to remember. Family?" His expression tightened. "People. People is not family." "No, so you have people?" "I think so." Ronke checked the time. Nearly 8. A bike ride home in that rain would cost more than usual. Bode had nowhere to go. The clinic would not keep a man overnight, simply because he had no place to sleep, and he was refusing Sissy involvement, without giving enough explanation for Ronke to understand why. She could leave him there. That was the sensible option. She knew it. Mama Titi, who had followed them and complained throughout, knew it. Bode himself probably knew it. Ronke opened her bag and took out her phone. "Give me 1 minute." She called Simi, a woman who rented the room opposite hers. "Simi, are you home?" "Yes." "Why?" "I'm bringing somebody to my room." "A man? How did you know?" "Because if it was a woman, you would not be sounding like somebody about to enter trouble." Ronke closed her eyes. "He is older. Injured. I don't know him." There was a long silence. "Ronke, I know. Do you?" "I will explain. I want you to know he is there. I'm not sleeping in the room with him. I'll keep my documents with you. I'll take my purse. If anything feels wrong, I leave." Another silence. Then Simi said, "Send me his picture." Ronke looked at Bode. "Sir, I need to take your picture." His brows drew together. "For what?" "So somebody knows who is in my room." He stared at her for a moment, then nodded. "Fair." Ronke took one photograph. No dramatic pose, no secret smile. Just an exhausted man standing under fluorescent light. She sent it to Simi. Then she turned to Bode. "You can sleep in my room tonight." He looked at her as if he had misheard. "One night," Ronke said. "Tomorrow we find another solution. You don't know me. I know. I could be lying. I know. I could be dangerous. Ronke looked him up and down. At this moment, the most dangerous thing about you is that you may fall on my floor, and I will have to explain it. Bode actually laughed. It was brief, painful, real. Then his eyes became serious again. Why? He asked. Ronke shrugged. Because you need somewhere dry. That is all. That is enough for one night. She did not know then how often she would remember that sentence. Enough for one night. It was supposed to be small. A bed, a key, a choice. But some choices refused to stay the size you gave them. By the time Ronke and Bode reached the compound, the rain had softened, but the sky was still low and black. The compound was a tired rectangle of 8 rooms facing a narrow cement courtyard. 2 security bulbs hung from exposed wires. One worked. The other flickered whenever the generator next door coughed. Simi was waiting outside her room in a green nightdress, arms folded. She looked at Bode once, then twice. This is him. Yes, this is the man you found. Yes. Bode inclined his head. Good evening. Simi blinked. Good evening. The politeness seemed to surprise her more than the bandage. Ronke unlocked her room. There was no mystery about what only room meant. 1 bed against the wall, 1 plastic chair, 1 metal rack with folded clothes, a small single-burner stove near the window, a blue bucket, 2 enamel plates. A curtain stretched across one corner where Ronke changed clothes. Everything she owned could be seen without turning your head too much. Bode stopped at the threshold. This is where you live? Ronke looked behind her as though another house might have appeared. Yes. You said I could sleep here. Yes. Where will you sleep? I will manage. That is not an answer. Ronke smiled without warmth. Now you are borrowing my questions. Simi took Ronke's document pouch, cash purse, and Milo tin without comment. Ronke also unplugged the small standing fan and moved it away from the wet patch under the window. Then she pointed to the bed. You sleep there. Bathroom is outside. 2nd door near the water tank. If you need anything, knock on Simi's door. Don't wander around the compound at night. Bode nodded. You have a key. Ronke held up the only one. I'll lock from outside when I leave. The window has burglar proofing. If you feel trapped, say it now. He stared at the door. Something passed through his face. Not anger, memory, the kind that bites. Don't lock me in. Ronke's hand dropped. Okay. She placed the key on the little table instead. You can lock from inside. Simi has my number. I'll be nearby. He exhaled slowly. Thank you. Ronke turned to leave. Ronke. She looked back. Bode had picked up the folded meat pie paper from his pocket. He set it carefully on the table so it would not stain anything. I meant it, he said. I will pay you back. Ronke almost told him not to promise things he could not control. Instead, she said, First, remember your surname. Outside, Simi followed her across the courtyard. Where are you actually going to sleep? At the laundry. On what? The bench. The wooden bench that bites everybody's back? That one. You are mad. Possibly. Come and squeeze in my room. With your 2 children? Where? We will manage. Ronke shook her head. Keep my things. Keep your phone on. If he behaves strangely, call me. Simi's eyes softened. You are doing too much. Ronke looked toward her own door. Maybe. Then a voice rang from the entrance of the compound. What is going on here? Kemi Balogun stood under a large umbrella, her ruby-red wrapper bright even in the weak security light. She owned the row of rooms with her younger brother. and she managed the place with the energy of a woman who considered every loose hinge a personal insult. Her eyes moved from Ronke to Simi to the unfamiliar shoes. One actual shoe, one borrowed slipper, outside Ronke's room. "Who is inside?" Ronke answered immediately. "A man who needs somewhere to sleep tonight." Kemi stared at her. "What man?" "I found him near the laundry. He is injured. He has nowhere to go." "And you brought him here?" "For tonight, to my property." Ronke's shoulders tightened. "To my room. Your room is inside my property." Simi shifted. "Kemi, the man is not causing trouble. I did not ask you." Bode must have heard the voices because the door opened. He stood there in the charcoal shirt, one hand on the frame. Kemi's face changed as soon as she saw him. Not fear exactly. Disgust first, then suspicion. She looked at Ronke. "So this is what you carried here?" Ronke's jaw tightened. "His name is Bode." "Bode what?" Nobody answered. Kemi laughed once. "So you don't even know his full name. He has a head injury, or he is pretending." Bode spoke quietly. "Madam, I will leave in the morning." Kemi turned on him. "You will leave now." Ronke stepped between them without planning to. "He has been checked at a clinic. The rain is still heavy. He can barely stand. And what happens if he steals from other tenants? Simi has my valuables. What if he attacks somebody? He has done nothing. Yet that word landed badly." Bode looked down at his bare foot. Ronke saw it. She also saw the neighbors beginning to open doors. One woman peeped through a curtain. A young man came out carrying a toothbrush, then forgot why he had left his room. Kemi lowered her voice, but only slightly. "Ronke, I have warned people before. No unknown people sleeping here. You are already owing part of your rent. You cannot add trouble to debt." There it was. The real leverage. Ronke felt heat climb her neck. She hated that Kemi said it in front of people. She hated more that it was true. "I will settle the balance," Ronke said. "When?" "Next week. You said that last week. I paid half, and half rent does not become full rent because you are kind." Simi muttered, "Kemi, no. Everybody likes to call me wicked until pipe spoils. Then they remember my number." Kemi pointed toward Ronke's room. "I don't know that man. You don't know that man. He has no ID, no phone. He says he cannot remember his surname. And you think because he looks old, danger has retired from him?" Ronke could not dismiss that. Kemi's concern was not nonsense. Her contempt was. "I understand the risk," Ronke said. "I have taken precautions. Simi knows. I sent his picture. He has been to a clinic. I will not sleep in the room." Kemi's eyes widened. "So you will leave your own room for a stranger?" "For one night." "No, Kemi, no." Then came the sentence from the hook. "Either that man leaves this compound tonight, or you will be the one looking for somewhere to sleep." The courtyard went quiet. Even the rain seemed to move farther away. Ronke stared at Kemi. This was not legal paperwork, not an eviction order, not a court scene. It was pressure. Simple, ugly, immediate. A landlord telling a tenant already behind on rent that her future there could become difficult. Ronke looked at Bode. He had gone very still. "Ronke," he said, "I can go." "Where?" "I'll find somewhere. With one slipper. That is not your problem." Ronke looked at Kemi again. Maybe that was the moment everybody expected her to become dramatic. To shout. To call Kemi heartless. To make a speech about humanity. Ronke was too tired for speeches. She walked into her room. She picked up her orange bag. She removed one wrapper from the rack, a toothbrush. she wore when the laundry became cold-dinkled at night. Then she came out. "Let him stay," she said quietly. "I will find somewhere else for tonight." Kemi's mouth opened. Ronke did not wait. She turned to Bode. "Lock the door from inside. Don't open for anybody you don't know. Simi is opposite." Bode looked stunned. "You should not do this. Probably. I mean it. So do I." She walked toward the gate. Kemi called after her. "Ronke, don't say tomorrow that I did not warn you." Ronke stopped but did not turn around. "I won't then." She left. At Akinyele Laundry, the wooden bench was exactly as bad as Simi had promised. Ronke knew every hard edge by midnight. She folded her sweater under her head and lay on her side beneath the sound of rain hitting the metal awning. Sleep refused to come. At 1:30, she checked her phone. No message from Simi. At 2:15, still nothing. At 3, she sat up, because a generator started behind the building with a violent cough. Her back hurt. Her stomach was empty. She opened her bag, found half a packet of groundnuts, and ate them one at a time then. Her phone vibrated. "Simi." Ronke answered at once. "What happened?" "Nothing. Calm down. Why are you calling me at 3:14 if nothing happened?" He woke from sleep's shouting. Ronke stood. "Shouting what?" "I couldn't understand. Something about a door. Somebody called Musa. Or maybe he said move. I don't know." He calmed down. "I asked if he wanted me to call you." He said no. Ronke rubbed her forehead. "Is your door locked?" "Yes." "His?" "Yes." "Okay." "Ronke." "I think something happened to that man." "I know. No, I mean something bad." Ronke looked at the dark laundry. "I know." After the call, she did not lie down again. She sat on the bench until dawn and watched the sky change through the glass door. At 6:20, she washed her face in the laundry sink, tied her hair properly, and started work before the owner arrived. That was the thing about sacrifice when you had no cushion. Morning still came with work. By 7:30, she had pressed 6 shirts and 2 trousers. By 8:10, her eyes burned. At 8:15, her boss, Mr. Akinyele, arrived and looked at her clothes. "You slept here?" Ronke did not look up. "Small." He frowned. "Why?" "Long story. Is it husband problem?" "I don't have husband." "Then it cannot be serious." Ronke gave him a look. He lifted both hands. "I am joking. You should improve." At 9, she asked for 1 hour to go home and check on Bode. Mr. Akinyele refused. "Customers are coming." "You already came late last Thursday. Because your generator was at mechanic, and you sent me to carry part." "That one is different." "How?" "Because it was my problem." Ronke stared at him. He smiled as though he had made a strong legal argument. She waited until 10:30. Then Simi messaged. "He is asking for you. Says he remembered something." Ronke read the message twice. She untied her apron. "Sir, I have to go." Mr. Akinyele looked up sharply. "If you leave now, don't expect me to pay full day." "I know." "Ronke." "I know." There went more money. Kindness had begun sending invoices. She left anyway. Bode was sitting outside her room when she arrived. Simi had found him a pair of old Brown's slippers that belonged to her brother. They were too large, but better than one shoe. His face looked clearer after sleep, still tired, still bruised. But his eyes had returned to the room. "Good morning," Ronke said. "Good morning. You remembered something?" He nodded. "A name. Your surname?" "No." She tried not to look disappointed. "What name?" "Yusuf." "Yusuf who?" "I don't know." Ronke sat on the low step opposite him. "Friend?" "I think so." "Relative?" "No." "You are sure about that?" Yes, what does he do? Bode pressed 2 fingers against his temple. I see an office. Glass. He wears glasses when he reads, but removes them to argue. Ronke waited. He tells me when I am wrong. That sounds expensive. Bode looked at her, then laughed quietly. I think he is paid for it. So, colleague? Maybe. Boss? Bode's mouth twitched. No, that answer had certainty, Ronke noticed. What do you remember about yourself? He looked down at his hands. Work. What work containers? Shipping. Among other things. Driver? No. Clearing agent? No warehouse? No. Ronke leaned back. You are saying no with plenty confidence for somebody who cannot remember his surname. Bode studied his hands again. I remember making decisions. What kind? Contracts. Ports. Numbers. Accountant. He shook his head. Management? Maybe. Ronke nodded slowly. That made sense. A retired manager. Maybe something had happened to him while traveling. Maybe he had family in Lagos or Abuja. Maybe he had been robbed. The story her mind built was ordinary enough to hold. She preferred it that way. Do you remember a phone number? Not all of it. Try. Bode closed his eyes. He said 6 digits, stopped. Changed the 5th. Started again, then shook his head, frustrated. It is there. Don't force it. I need to call him. You will. Bode opened his eyes. You sound certain. I'm not. But you look like somebody who will disturb everybody until you remember. He smiled. For the first time, Ronke could imagine what he might have looked like before whatever happened. Not rich, not poor, just competent. That was what she saw. A man used to being listened to, and now he had to ask permission to use a stranger's phone. Kemi appeared at the far end of the courtyard carrying a bucket. She saw Bode and stopped. You are still here. Ronke stood. He is leaving today. When? We are working on it, Kemi snorted. Working on what? He cannot even say who he is. Bode looked at her. I am trying. Kemi's eyes narrowed. Try faster. Then she turned to Ronke. And you? I need the rest of my rent by Monday. Monday? You said next week. Monday is 4 days. Then let 4 days behave like 1 week. Ronke swallowed her reply. Kemi walked away. Bode watched her go. How much do you owe? Ronke's face hardened. That is not your business. I am staying in the room you pay for 1 night. More than 1 now. You are leaving today. I heard you. Good. Bode was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'm sorry. Ronke looked at him. For what? For costing you. She wanted to say he had not. But that would have been a lie. The clinic fee, the missed hours, the bench, the landlord pressure. He had cost her, not because he intended to, but costs do not wait for intention. So Ronke said, then help me solve the next problem. How? Remember Yusuf's number, and that was what they did. For the next 2 hours, Ronke treated memory like a stubborn stain. Do not scrub until the cloth tears. Soak it, leave it. Come back. She asked Bode about ordinary things. What food did he dislike? Overripe banana. That came quickly. Did he drink tea or coffee? Coffee. Sugar. No children? His face changed. 1 daughter. Name? He closed his eyes. Nothing, Ronke regretted asking. Leave it. Bode stood and walked slowly across the courtyard. Simi's children watched him from behind their mother's curtain, as though a new species had entered the compound. He stopped near the tap. Do you have paper? Ronke brought him the back of an old laundry receipt and a pen. He began writing numbers, not phone numbers at first, columns, figures, percentages. Then he drew a line through them. What is that? Ronke asked. I don't know. You wrote it. I know. That is not encouraging. He looked at the paper. Freight capacity, maybe. Ronke stared. You remember freight capacity, but not your own surname. Apparently my brain has priorities. Bad priorities. Agreed. By noon, the partial number had grown from 6 digits to 9. Still not enough. Ronke made Gary with ground nuts because there was little else. Bode ate without complaint. He asked how much her washing machine would cost. Ronke looked at him sharply. How do you know about that? You spoke in your sleep. I did not sleep here. Then you mentioned it yesterday. I did. You said you needed to stop washing heavy loads by hand. Ronke thought back. Maybe she had. She was tired enough to have told him the history of Nigeria and forgotten. A used machine, she said. Nothing fancy. How long have you been saving? Long enough. And the rent? Different problem, same money. That is why it is a problem. He nodded. No pity, no soft face. Ronke appreciated that. People with more money than you sometimes looked at your small arithmetic as if poverty were a puzzle they could solve with one clever suggestion. Spend less. Work more. Save better. As if poor people had simply forgotten those verbs. Bode did not advise her. He only asked, what would the machine change? My hands. She flexed her fingers. The skin near 2 knuckles had split from detergent and constant water. Then more work, more customers. Maybe one girl to help on busy days. So you already know what you would do with capacity. Ronke raised an eyebrow. Capacity. There. That word again. You really are a manager. Maybe a boring one. Those are the dangerous ones. He laughed. For a few minutes, neither of them remembered that he did not know where he belonged. Then Kemi passed again and ruined it. She stopped near the doorway. Ronke, I am serious. This cannot continue. It is not continuing. You said that yesterday. We are trying to contact somebody. With what? A number. Kemi looked at Bode. Does he remember it now? Not all. Kemi shook her head. This is how people enter trouble. Tomorrow you will discover he has 3 wives looking for him and 1 police case following him. Bode's face tightened at the word police. Ronke saw it again. Kemi, please. No. I am not insulting him. I am using sense. If somebody cannot tell you who he is, you cannot build trust on air. Ronke took that sentence seriously. Kemi was right about one thing. Trust needed something to stand on. So when Bode asked to stay another night, Ronke said no. Not cruelly, firmly. We need another plan before evening, he nodded. I understand. She called 2 churches that sometimes assisted stranded people. One had no space. The second said they could help with food, but not overnight accommodation. She called a community contact Simi knew. They suggested a shelter across town, but transport in the rain and Bode's condition made the arrangement difficult. They asked for basic identification if available. He had none. Every path returned to the same thing. Who are you? Bode could not answer. At 3 in the afternoon, Ronke took him back toward the clinic because his headache had sharpened. They rode in a small tricycle with plastic side curtains snapping in the wind. Traffic crawled near a junction where water had gathered deep enough to force vehicles into one narrow lane. Bode sat beside Ronke, eyes closed. Then suddenly he opened them. Across the road stood a large billboard, a shipping container painted blue, a port crane behind it, and the words, Coker Infrastructure, moving what moves nations. Bode gripped the metal bar in front of him. Stop! The driver looked back. Stop where? There. Uncle, there is water. I cannot stop inside water. Bode? Ronke said. He was staring at the billboard. His face had drained of color. Coker, he whispered. Ronke followed his eyes. What? Coker, the company? He pressed his palm against his forehead. Images were moving behind his face now. Ronke could see it. A meeting room, a table, men in dark jackets, a woman saying something about Rotterdam, Yusuf pulling off his glasses, a signature, a private lift, a laugh he knew, a voice calling him daddy. Then another image cut through all of it, a road, a vehicle, braking hard, shouting, glass, hands pulling him down, a cloth over his face. Bode folded forward. Ronke caught his shoulder. Driver, clinic. Fast, please. No problem, madam. At the clinic, they sat him down. His vital signs were checked again. The doctor on duty advised that worsening symptoms required a higher-level evaluation. But Bode resisted leaving immediately until he could place one call. I know the name, he said. Ronke sat beside him. Your surname? He looked at her. Coker. She glanced toward the billboard visible, far down the road through the clinic entrance. Like that company? Yes. You worked there? Bode's mouth opened, closed, I think. Then he stopped. Ronke waited. I think it is mine. She stared at him. For 3 full seconds, she said nothing. Then she said, the billboard. Know the company? Yes. Ronke leaned back. Okay, Bode looked offended. That is all you will stay. What do you want me to say? I just told you I may own that company. And yesterday you could not remember your surname. That is true. So today, let us verify before I start greeting you with trumpet. Bode almost smiled. Ronke took out her phone. Do you remember Yusuf's number? He closed his eyes. This time the digits came faster. 1, 2, 3. He paused after the 8th, then said the rest. Ronke entered them. Ready? Bode stared at the screen. No. She waited. He inhaled. Call. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. A recorded voice said the number was unavailable. Bode's shoulders dropped. Ronke tried again. Same result. Maybe 1 digit is wrong. He shook his head. No, it is correct. How sure? Very. That is new. He looked at her sharply. Ronke held up her hands. Sorry. They waited 10 minutes. Tried again. This time the call went through. A man answered immediately. Hello? Bode did not speak. The voice came again. Hello, who is this? Bode's hand began to shake. Yusuf. Silence. A long one. Then the man on the other end said, Who is this? It is me. Who? Bode. The line went silent again. Ronke could hear the faint hum of another room through the phone. Then Yusuf's voice changed. Not relief. Suspicion. Listen to me carefully. If until somebody is forcing you to say that name, put the phone down. Bode looked at Ronke. Nobody is forcing me. What did you call me the day I refused to sign the Apapa route memo? Bode frowned. What? Answer. You called the route reckless. That is not what I asked. Bode's mouth moved. Then a weak laugh escaped him. I called you a professional pessimist. There was a sound on the other end. A chair scraping. Yusuf spoke again, faster. Where are you? Clinic. Ibadan. Which clinic? Bode looked at Ronke. She told him the name. He repeated it. Who is with you? Yusuf asked. A woman named Ronke. Who is she? Bode looked at Ronke again. She found me. Ronke could hear Yusuf breathing. Bode, do not leave. Do not speak to anybody you do not know. Do not post anything. Do not tell strangers your full identity. I am sending people. There was another pause. We will talk about that when I see you. Yusuf. Yes, my daughter. She is safe. Bode closed his eyes. Ronke turned away. That answer seemed to take something heavy out of his body. Yusuf's voice softened for the first time. She is safe. She knows you are alive now, because I am looking at her. She is crying. I am also not behaving well. So please, for once in your stubborn life, stay where you are. Bode laughed once, then covered his face. The call ended after Yusuf confirmed the location twice and asked Ronke's phone number. Ronke stared at her screen. Bode sat motionless beside her. So, she said eventually. So, Coker, yes. Coker infrastructure, yes, you own it. Bode looked at her. I founded it. Ronke whistled softly. That is not small management. No. You could not have mentioned that yesterday. I would have enjoyed mentioning it. Despite herself, Ronke laughed. Then she became serious. What happened to you? Bode stared at the floor. Men stopped our vehicle. There were 2 cars, maybe 3. I remember my security man shouting. They took me somewhere. They moved me later. I heard them arguing. One of them left a back door unsecured while they were loading something. I ran. You just ran? I did not have a better presentation. Ronke's face tightened. How long? I don't know. 2 days, 3. And you walked until I found you, mostly. Why didn't you go to police? I did not know who was involved. I did not know what information had leaked. I could remember enough to be afraid and not enough to know whom to trust. That finally made sense. Not perfect sense. Human sense. Fear had survived even when facts had not. Ronke nodded slowly. Then a strange thought came to her. If you founded Coker infrastructure. Yes. How rich are you? Bode looked tired again. Ronke. I'm asking. I don't know the current number. People always say that when the number is insulting. He laughed. I have been told recently that a financial magazine ranked me first. Ronke blinked. First where? In the world. She stared at him, then at his borrowed slippers, then at the cracked screen of her own phone in his hand. No. Bode nodded once. No. Yes. Richest man alive. That phrase is not one I use. But is it true? According to a valuation I argued with, yes. Ronke stood up. She walked 2 steps away, came back, looked at him again. You slept on my bed. I did. My bed, yes. The richest man in the world slept on the mattress that bends in the middle. Bode's mouth twitched. It does bend. God, Ronke. Don't ronk me. You complained with your back this morning. I did not complain. You made noise when you stood. That was age. That was my mattress. For the first time since she had seen him under the pharmacy canopy, Ronke laughed until tears came. Bode laughed too. Not because anything was funny enough to justify it. Because sometimes the body needs another exit for fear. The security team arrived 48 minutes later. Not 20 black vehicles, not sirens, 2 dark SUVs. 4 people who moved with quiet urgency, and Yusuf Bello. He stepped out before the vehicle had fully settled. Tall, 50-something, navy shirt, glasses in one hand. Bode was standing beneath the clinic awning. Yusuf stopped. The 2 men looked at each other. No music, no speech. Yusuf crossed the distance and pulled Bode into his arms. Bode held him hard. Ronke looked away. A woman from the security team spoke to the doctor. Another checked the entrance and the road. Everything happened quickly, but not chaotically. Yusuf finally released Bode. You look terrible. You look expensive. I have been awake for 70 hours. That explains it. Yusuf turned toward Ronke. You are Ronke? Yes. He looked at her with an intensity that made her straighten. You found him? Near my work. You brought him here to the clinic. And my room. Yusuf's face changed. Your room? For one night, Bode said. She gave me the room and slept at her workplace. Ronke looked at him. You don't need to advertise it. I am stating a fact. Yusuf took a breath. Thank you. Ronke shifted her orange bag higher on her shoulder. You're welcome. It sounded too small. But everything sounded too small that day. Before they left, Bode asked Ronke to come with them to a more secure medical facility. She refused. I have work. Bode stared at her. You left work for me. That is why I need to go back. Yusuf almost smiled. Bode looked like a man encountering resistance from an unfamiliar government department. Then give Yusuf your details. Ronke's expression changed. For what? So I can contact you. You already have my number. That phone call may become evidence. Security will probably replace this device or copy information from it. Ronke immediately pulled her phone toward herself. Replace my phone? Yusuf raised both hands. Madam, nobody will take your phone without your permission. Good. Bode watched her. Something about that moment amused him. Maybe because he had just regained access to an empire, and Ronke's main concern was a cracked screen phone worth less than one of his dinner bills. But to Ronke, the phone was not small. It held customer numbers, bank alerts, photographs, her life. Bode seemed to understand. Keep it, he said, obviously. Yusuf laughed under his breath. They arranged a secure number Ronke could call if needed. Then Bode got into the SUV. Before the door closed, he looked back. Ronke, yes? I remember what I promised. She folded her arms. Remember your daughter first. The door closed. The vehicles pulled away. Ronke stood under the awning until they disappeared. Then she looked down at her clothes. Burnt orange blouse. Cheap sandals. One sleeve marked with a faint stain from laundry starch. Nothing about her had changed. Not one thing. That was what she thought. She was wrong. By the time she returned to the compound, everybody knew. The first person to meet Ronke at the compound gate was the young man with the toothbrush from the night before. He had a phone in his hand now. Ronke. She kept walking. Is it true? What? That man. What about him? He is Bode Coker? Ronke stopped. The young man turned his phone toward her. A photograph filled the screen. Not the one Ronke had taken. This one showed Bode in a dark suit beside a conference table. His hair neat, his face clean. His posture so different that Ronke would not have recognized him immediately if she had not spent 2 days listening to him argue with his own memory. The headline beneath the picture said, he had been found alive after disappearing under circumstances his company had not yet fully disclosed. Ronke looked up. How did you know he was here? The young man grinned. People saw the vehicles. That was enough. In a compound, 3 people could turn a tire puncture into a family history before lunch. By evening, the story had developed decorations. According to one woman, Bode had arrived in a helicopter. According to another, soldiers had blocked the street. Someone said Ronke had hidden him for 1 week. Someone else said she had demanded a reward before releasing him. The most imaginative version claimed Bode had promised to marry her. Ronke nearly dropped a bucket when she heard that one. Marry who? Simi was laughing too hard to answer. People are sick, Ronke said. That one I agree. I found a 60-something-year-old man injured, and now I am marrying him. Simi wiped her eyes. Maybe they think suffering has no age gap. Please leave my room. It is my room. Ronke looked around. She was, in fact, sitting in Simi's room. That made both of them laugh again. The laughter ended when Kemi knocked. She entered without waiting for an answer. Her ruby-red blouse had been changed for an emerald-green one. The color suited her, though Ronke was not in the mood to appreciate it. Kemi looked unusually careful. Ronke. Yes? I heard the man has gone. Yes, with his people. Yes. Kemi shifted her weight. Somebody told me who he is. Ronke said nothing. Kemi glanced at Simi, then back at Ronke. Well, thank God. For what? That he is safe. Ronke nodded. Yes. Thank God. Kemi hesitated. You know, yesterday I was only concerned about everybody's safety. I know. I was not trying to insult him. Ronke said nothing. Kemi's mouth tightened. I mean, how could anybody know? Look at the way he came. No shoe. Dirty clothes. No name. Anybody would think. What? Ronke asked. Kemi stopped. Anybody would think what? That he was stranded. Ronke waited. Kemi changed direction. The important thing is that everything ended well. Did it? Kemi's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? You said I needed to pay the balance by Monday. Yes. That has not changed. Kemi stared at her as though the question had insulted both of them. Ronke, after what happened, why are you worrying about small rent? Because I still owe it. But surely that man will. She stopped herself. Ronke finished for her. Will what? Kemi smiled too quickly. Nothing. I only mean somebody like him will not forget what you did. Ronke leaned back against the wall. There it is. What? Yesterday I was foolish for helping a man with nothing. Today the same thing is wise because he has money. Kemi's face hardened. That is not what I said. It is what changed. I had a responsibility to protect tenants, and you were right to ask questions. Kemi looked surprised. Ronke continued. You were right that I should think about safety. You were right that nobody knew him. You were right that kindness does not make danger disappear. Kemi's shoulders relaxed a little. But you were not right to talk about him like dirt because he looked poor. The relaxation disappeared. I did not call him dirt. You did not need the word. Simi looked at the floor. Kemi drew herself up. Anyway, pay by Monday. Ronke nodded. I will try. Kemi left. The door closed. Simi whistled softly. You enjoy trouble? No. You just told your landlord her character is smelling. I told her the truth. Truth also has rent. Ronke smiled, but not much, because Monday was still coming, and Bode, being rich, had not put 1 naira into her envelope. The next 2 days proved how little a dramatic story cared about ordinary bills. Ronke returned to work. Mr. Akinyele deducted the hours she had missed. A customer complained that 2 shirts were delivered late. The generator belt snapped. The price of transport rose after another week of fuel scarcity in the area. Life did not pause because Ronke had briefly sheltered a man whose face appeared on financial websites around the world. But other people did not let her forget. Customers asked questions. Did he tell you how much he has? No. Did he give you money? No. Did you ask? No. Why, Ronke would look at them. What exactly should I have said? Sir, before your memory returns, transfer something? Some laughed. Some looked at her as though she had failed an examination. One woman said, if it was me, poverty would end that day. Ronke wanted to ask how. Would she search the pockets of an injured stranger? Hold him until his family paid? Turn kindness into ransom after the fact? She kept the questions to herself. Then, on Saturday morning, the photograph appeared online. Not the photograph from the clinic. The one Ronke had sent Simi. Bode under fluorescent light, bandage near his temple. Dirty shirt, tired eyes. The picture had escaped from somewhere. Simi swore she had not shared it publicly. I only sent it to my sister because I was scared, she admitted, mortified. She says she sent it to nobody. Ronke believed her. Mostly, it did not matter anymore. The image was spreading through WhatsApp groups and local social pages alongside captions that became less accurate each hour. The billionaire Beggar of Ibadan. Poor laundry woman saves world richest man. From one room to billions, how destiny Ronke. Ronke hated the last one most. Destiny had not found her. A tired man had. And nobody online seemed interested in the difference. By afternoon, 2 content creators came to the laundry. One held a microphone with a foam cover, carrying his channel logo. Madam Ronke, just 2 minutes. No. We want to celebrate you. No. People need to hear your story. They have already written 10 versions. That is why you should give the correct one. Ronke stopped folding a bedsheet. That makes sense. The young man brightened. Exactly. But I am working. His face fell. Just 2 minutes. No. He tried another angle. Did Mr. Coker promise to change your life? Ronke looked at him. Please leave. Did he give you a house? Leave. A car? Leave. Money? Mr. Akinyele finally came out from the back room. Brother, she said, leave. The content creator backed toward the door while still filming. Madam Ronke, people are calling you an inspiration. Ronke picked up a wet towel. If you don't move, this inspiration will land on your camera. He left. Mr. Akinyele waited until he was gone. Then he said, You should have answered. Ronke stared at him. What? Publicity is publicity. For whose business? Our business. Ronke laughed once. Of course. Even Mr. Akinyele had found a way to discover opportunity in her kindness. That evening, Ronke received the first direct call from Bode's people. The caller introduced herself as Sad Williams, Group Director of Communications. Her voice was warm, polished, and fast. Ms. Adebayo first, I want to say how deeply grateful we are. We? Mr. Coker's family and the organization. How is he? He is recovering very well. Ronke sat on the edge of her bed. Kemi had allowed her back in after Bode left, though allowed was not a word Ronke enjoyed. Sade continued. Mr. Coker has spoken about you several times. He has asked us to make sure you are supported. Ronke looked at the wall where damp had bubbled the paint near the window. Supported how? We would like to meet you and discuss that properly. Okay. Would Monday work? Monday rent day. Ronke almost laughed. What time? 10 a.m. We can send a vehicle. Ronke thought of arriving at the compound in one of those dark SUVs. By lunch, people would claim Bode had bought her Lagos. I will come myself. Are you sure? It is no trouble. I am sure. Sade gave her the address of a corporate office in Ibadan rather than sending her to Lagos. That helped. Before ending the call, Sade said, Miss Adebayo, one small thing. If any media outlet contacts you, please avoid speaking until we meet. There are security matters involved. Ronke's spine straightened. I already refused them. Excellent. The word bothered her. Not because it was rude, because it sounded like approval. As if Ronke had passed a test she did not know she was taking. Good night, she said. After the call, she opened the Milo tin, counted the money, counted it again. If she paid Kemi the full balance on Monday, the washing machine fund would almost disappear. She sat with that fact for a long time. Then she took the rent money out. Dreams had to eat last, again. Monday morning came bright and hot, as though the city had forgotten the rain completely. Ronke paid Kemi before leaving. Every naira. Kemi counted it twice, then said, "I hope you are not angry about what happened." Ronke looked at the money in Kemi's hand. No, it was not entirely true, but anger did not reduce rent. Kemi lowered her voice. "Is it true you are meeting him today?" Ronke stared at her. "How did you hear that?" Kemi shrugged too casually. "People talk. People need work." Kemi smiled. "Just remember those who knew you before all this." Ronke almost asked what that meant. She decided she did not want to know. The office was in a modern commercial building off a major road, all glass, polished tile, security desk, air conditioning cold enough to punish sweat. Ronke arrived in a clean turquoise blouse and a burnt orange skirt she saved for church events and serious appointments. She had nearly changed twice before leaving home. Not because her clothes were bad, because suddenly she knew people might look at them as evidence. Evidence of poverty, evidence of goodness, evidence of whatever story they had already decided she represented. That made her angry, before she even entered the lift. Sade Williams met her on the 4th floor. She wore a bright violet suit and low heels, her hair pulled into a neat bun. Everything about her looked deliberate. Ronke. She smiled and took both of Ronke's hands. "It is so good to finally meet you. You too. Please, come." Sade led her into a conference room where bottled water, tea, coffee, fruit, and small pastries had been arranged for one guest, as though 5 people were expected. Ronke sat carefully. A young assistant offered coffee. "Tea is fine. What type?" Ronke looked at the tray. "Normal type." The assistant hesitated. Sade laughed. "Black tea." "Thank you." Ronke smiled, but she felt the distance between worlds in that tiny exchange. At home, T had 2 questions. Is there milk? Is there sugar? Here, T had a family tree. Sade sat opposite her. Mr. Coker wanted to be here, but his doctors have restricted his schedule. That is fine. I only want to know he is okay. He is. He remembers much more now. His daughter is with him. Ronke nodded. That mattered more than the pastries. Sade opened a leather folder. "Mr. Coker has asked us to make a meaningful gesture of gratitude." Ronke's shoulders stiffened despite herself. Sade slid a document across the table. There was a figure printed near the top. Ronke looked at it, then looked again. Her brain rejected the zeros. "This is money." Sade smiled. "Yes, for me? Yes, why?" Sade blinked. "For what you did." Ronke sat back. The amount could clear rent for years, buy more than 1 washing machine, pay debts, move her out of the compound, buy a small used car if she wanted. It was more money than Ronke had ever seen directed at her in one place. Her hands became cold. Sad must have mistaken the silence for joy. "And that is only one part," she said. "We are also prepared to secure better accommodation for you immediately." Ronke looked up. "Immediately?" "Yes. Mr. Coker was very disturbed to hear that you gave him your only room and slept at your workplace. We can correct that." "Correct." The word scratched. Ronke touched the edge of the document. "Is this a gift? Yes? No loan? No work attached?" Sade smiled. "Not work, exactly. There it was." Ronke's finger stopped moving. "What is attached?" Sade leaned forward, still smiling. "Nothing unreasonable. We are dealing with enormous public interest. The story is already circulating, mostly in inaccurate forms. We believe there is an opportunity to tell it properly." "Tell what properly?" "Your act of kindness. Mr. Coker's recovery. The human side of what happened. Ronke looked at the folder again. Sade opened another page. A mock-up. A large photograph of Bode in his ruined clothes, beside a photograph of Ronke taken from somewhere she did not recognize. Across the top were the words, "The woman who saved the world, richest man." Ronke's stomach tightened. Sade kept speaking. "We would handle everything sensitively. A short, filmed interview. Perhaps some shots at your room, if the landlord agrees. A reconstruction of how you found him. Nothing exploitative." Ronke looked up slowly. "A reconstruction?" "Yes, very simple. We would not dramatize the security incident, only your side. What would I do? Just walk us through that evening. With camera, yes. At my room, if you are comfortable." Sade hesitated, then added, "And if you still have the orange blouse you wore, visually it would help continuity." Ronke stared at her. For the first time in the meeting, Sade's smile became uncertain. "You want me to wear the same clothes? Only if you are comfortable. And stand inside my room, yes, and show people the bed. We can avoid anything you consider too personal." Ronke looked again at the printed figure. She thought about the Milo tin, the machine she had just pushed further away by paying rent. She thought about the cracked skin on her fingers. Then she asked the question that changed the room. "Do I have to do the interview to receive this help?" Sade did not answer immediately. That was the answer. Ronke leaned back. Sade spoke carefully. "The support package was developed as part of a broader public response initiative. There are approvals, reputational considerations, security messaging. So yes, I would not put it that way. How would you put it? We want to create something positive from a terrible situation. And if I don't want my room on camera, we can adjust. If I don't want my clothes discussed, we can adjust. If I don't want my face used," Sade paused. "That would make the campaign difficult." Ronke nodded. "Okay." She stood. Sade looked startled. "Ronke, thank you for the tea. Please sit. I think you may have misunderstood. I understand enough. The money is substantial. I saw. And Mr. Coker genuinely wants you to have it. Then why does my face need to come with it?" Sade's expression changed. Not cruel. Frustrated. "Because this situation is larger than either of us. There are investors, employees, security concerns, public speculation. People are asking what happened. The story of how he was helped gives the public something truthful and hopeful. Then tell them he was helped. By whom? A person. That is not how media works." Ronke picked up her bag. "Then maybe media should manage without me." Sade stood too. "Ronke, nobody is trying to use you." Ronke looked at the mock-up again. The photograph, the headline, the orange blouse request. Then she looked back at Sade. "I think you already started." And she walked out. The assistant in the corridor looked shocked to see her leave so soon. Ronke pressed the lift button. Her hands were shaking. Not because she had rejected money, because she knew exactly what rejecting it meant. Rent would still come next month. Her hands would still hurt. The washing machine would still be out of reach. Principles were expensive when you were poor. That was the part rich people rarely put in speeches. The lift doors opened. Ronke stepped inside. Only when the doors closed did she realize she had left the tea untouched. The first person Ronke called, after leaving the building, was nobody. She wanted to call Simi. She wanted to complain. She wanted somebody to tell her she had done the right thing. But Ronke had learned that when a decision cost money, too much reassurance could become a kind of drug. You could use it to avoid looking at the bill. So she boarded a bus and went back to work. She pressed shirts until 6. At 6:15, Mr. Akinyele asked why she had not returned in a company car. At 6:16, Ronke told him to mind the collar he was folding. At 6:30, Simi called. "Where are you?" "Work." "Why?" "Because they pay me small to be here." "Did you see him?" "No." "They gave you money?" Ronke was silent. Simi's voice dropped. "Ronke, they offered how much?" "I'm not telling you." "Why?" "Because if I tell you, you will insult me." Simi paused. "What did you do?" "I left it." There was a sound on the other end like somebody sitting down, hard. "You what?" "I left it." "Ronke Adebayo. Don't use my full name." "Have you lost your mind?" "Possibly. We have discussed this. Why did you leave money?" "They wanted an interview." "So?" "And cameras in my room." Simi stopped. "And they wanted me to wear the orange blouse." Silence. "Why?" "For continuity." "Continuity of what? Your suffering?" Ronke closed her eyes. That is how it felt. Simi was quiet for a while. Then she said, "How much?" Ronke laughed despite herself. "You are shameless. I want to know the size of the principal." "I am not telling you." "Fine." "Was it enough for washing machine?" "Yes." "2?" "Yes." "5?" Ronke said nothing. Simi screamed so loudly, Ronke held the phone away from her ear. "You left 5 washing machines because of blouse?" "It was not blouse." "I know." The joking left Simi's voice. "I know." Ronke looked through the laundry window at the road. "Maybe I was stupid." "No. You just called me mad." "You can be correct and mad together." "That is helpful." "Listen, if he wants to thank you, let him thank you. But if they want to buy the right to show your room to the world, that is different." Ronke breathed out. That was all she had needed. Not praise. A distinction. The next morning, Sade called 3 times. Ronke did not answer until the 3rd. "Ronke, I would like us to talk." "I am at work." "I understand. I also want to apologize if yesterday felt too transactional." Ronke nearly laughed at the corporate word. It felt like transaction because there was money on the table. "That is fair." Sage sounded less polished now. "I spoke with Mr. Coker last night." Ronke's grip tightened on the phone. "What did he say?" "He was not pleased." "With me?" "With us." Ronke said nothing. "He wants to speak to you directly. He knows my number. He asked whether calling unexpectedly would put pressure on you." "That surprised Ronke," Sade continued. "So I am asking first." Ronke looked down at the sleeve she was pressing. "Tell him he can call this evening. Thank you." Before Sade ended the call, Ronke asked, "Why did you do it?" There was a pause. "The campaign?" "Yes." Sade took a breath. "Because within 24 hours of his reappearance, there were false kidnapping theories, investor panic, conspiracy claims, fake audio recordings, even a rumor that he had staged his disappearance. We needed a truthful human account quickly. That explains the interview." "Yes, it does not explain tying my help to it." No, Sadie did not defend herself this time. "I made that structure too neat," she said. "The gratitude package and the media request should have been separate." Ronke appreciated the sentence because it did not ask to be forgiven. "Okay." "Okay?" "I heard you." "Not the same thing." Sade seemed to understand. That evening, Bode called at 7:43. Ronke was sitting outside her room, peeling boiled yam with a small knife. Simi's children were doing homework nearby, one of them reading multiplication tables with the tortured voice of somebody betrayed by numbers. Ronke answered. "Hello." "Ronke." His voice sounded different, Stronger, clearer, still him. "You remember me?" she asked. "I remember your mattress." Ronke smiled. "Then your brain is working. I have recovered a great deal. How is your daughter?" "Angry." "That means she is fine." "Yes. And you?" "Also being supervised by people who are angry." "Good." Bode laughed. Then both of them became quiet. "I heard about Monday," he said. Ronke looked at the yam in her hand. "I know. I am sorry. You did not arrange the meeting. My organization did. That is not the same thing. It is when my name is on the building." Ronke did not answer. Bode continued. "I told them I wanted you supported. I did not tell them to attach conditions. They called it broader public response. I know what they called it. Were you angry? Yes. With Sade? With myself first." That answer made Ronke stop peeling. "Why?" "Because I gave an instruction, without asking what you wanted. I said, make sure she is taken care of. Everybody around me knows how to turn vague instructions into expensive machinery. That sounds like rich people problem." "It is. And what do you want now?" "To see you." Ronke looked toward Simi's door. "For what?" "To ask properly." She almost refused. Not because she did not want to see him, because she could feel the shape of another story trying to form around the meeting. Billionaire visits poor woman. Richest man returns to one-room savior. Cameras at the gate. Neighbors screaming. "No convoy," Ronke said. Bode was silent for one bait. "Excuse me, no big vehicles, no camera, no crowd. I can manage no camera. And no 10 security people standing outside. Ronke, that part is not entirely negotiable." "Then don't come." Another silence. Bode sighed. "You negotiate like Yusuf. Who won the Apapa route argument? Not relevant." "So Yusuf. Good night, Ronke." She laughed. They agreed on the next afternoon at a small restaurant near the laundry, in a private side room. 2 security officers could remain outside without making a scene. That should have been the next problem. It was not. Kemi was waiting for Ronke before she left for work the following morning. She held a brown envelope. Ronke saw it and knew immediately that the conversation would be bad. "What is that?" Kemi's face was tired. "Notice that I will not renew your room after the current rental period." Ronke stared at her. The words took a second to settle. "I just paid you. You paid what you owed. I am not throwing you out today." "Then why?" Kemi looked toward the gate. "Since this thing happened, strangers have come here asking questions. 2 people took pictures yesterday. Somebody knocked at my brother's room at night, asking where you stay. Other tenants are complaining." Ronke felt anger rise. "So because people are disturbing me, I should lose my room. I have to think of the property. You are punishing me for what other people are doing. I am ending the arrangement when the paid period finishes. I am giving you time." "How much time?" 5 weeks. Ronke stared at her. 5 weeks was not tomorrow. It was not fair either. Kemi held out the envelope. "I am not fighting you." Ronke took it. "No. You are just making sure I do the moving." Kemi flinched. "I knew you before all this." Ronke looked at her. "People keep saying that, as if it gives them ownership. What does that mean?" "It means knowing me before Bode Coker does not make you entitled to anything after." Kemi's mouth tightened. "I did not ask you for anything." "Good." Ronke went to work carrying the envelope in her bag. She did not tell Bode immediately. That mattered. Because the old version of Ronke, the one people online had invented, would have waited for the billionaire to solve it. The real Ronke spent her lunch break making calls. "Room available near Challenge." Too expensive. Single room near work. Deposit required. Shared room. No secure place for customers' laundry. Small shop with backspace. Better, but still above what she had. She wrote each figure in a notebook. By the time Bode arrived at the restaurant, Ronke had 3 columns of numbers and a headache. He came through the back entrance in a cobalt blue suit, so sharp it looked almost unreal against the plain cream walls. For 1 second, Ronke simply stared. Bode noticed. "What? You look like yourself now." He sat across from her. "I was myself before." Ronke smiled. Fair, his hair had been cut. The bruising near his temple was fading. He wore no tie, and there was no visible watch. Ronke suspected that last choice was deliberate. "You look well," she said. "I am better. How much do you remember? Enough to be angry with many people and grateful to a few." "That sounds healthy." He smiled. A waiter brought water and left. Bode did not touch his glass. "Ronke, what do you want?" She looked at him. "Food first. I am serious. So am I. I skipped lunch." Bode laughed and called the waiter back. They ordered rice, grilled fish, and plantain. Ronke noticed Bode did not order for her. Small thing, but she noticed. When the waiter left, Bode tried again. "What do you want?" Ronke folded her hands. "Why must there be something?" "Because you paid for my clinic visit. You lost work. You slept on a bench. Your room became public entertainment. And I have the means to repair some of that. Repair is different from buying. I know that now. Do you?" Bode looked at her steadily. Yes, Ronke believed he meant it. She did not yet know if meaning it was enough. "Then don't ask me what amount I want," she said. "What should I ask?" "Ask what would make my life stronger after you leave it." Bode sat back. "That is a better question. Yes, answer it." Ronke pulled the notebook from her bag. Bode looked surprised. "You came prepared." "I am poor, not unserious." His face changed. Ronke opened the notebook. "I need a washing machine. Maybe 2 eventually. Not because machines are beautiful, because my hands are becoming useless." She showed him the cracks near her knuckles. "I need a small shop where I can work legally and safely. I need enough working capital for detergent, packaging, water storage, generator maintenance. Not forever. Enough to stop 1 bad week from killing the business." Bode listened. "And housing?" Ronke hesitated, then slid Kemi's envelope across the table. Bode read it. His jaw tightened. "When did this happen?" "This morning. Why didn't you tell me?" "I am telling you now. You were going to find another place yourself. I still am." "Ronke." "No." She leaned forward. "This is where everybody gets it wrong. I gave you a room. I did not hand you my life." Bode went still. Ronke continued quieter now. "If you want to help, help me stand. Don't carry me around like luggage." The waiter returned with food. Neither of them spoke until he left. Bode picked up his fork. "What else?" Ronke looked at him. "There is something else, yes. What?" She had thought about it since the night at the laundry bench. Not as a grand plan, as irritation, as one unanswered question. "What was I supposed to do with you?" she asked. Bode frowned. "You did enough. That is not what I mean. Suppose I did not have a room. Suppose Simi was not there. Suppose the clinic was closed. Suppose you were not Bode Coker, just one older man with no ID and nowhere safe to sleep for one night. Where exactly should I have taken you?" Bode stopped eating. Ronke continued. "I called 2 churches and 1 community contact. Everybody tried, but there was no simple answer. I had to choose between leaving you outside and giving up my own bed. Bode looked at the table. And you think there should be an answer? I think there should at least be a better one. What would that look like? I don't know yet. That is honest. A safe night place. Not long-term housing. Just somewhere a stranded person can be checked in, cleaned up, referred for healthcare if needed, and not treated like criminal because they look bad. Bode's eyes narrowed, thinking now. Security would be difficult. I know identification. I know medical emergencies. I know staff. I know liability. Ronke pointed her fork at him. Now you are doing rich manager thing. What thing? What? Listing all reasons something cannot work before asking people who actually do the work. Bode leaned back. Then slowly he smiled. Yusuf will like you. I already like Yusuf. He made you stay put. He will become unbearable if he hears that. Tell him. They ate. Afterward, Bode closed the notebook and pushed it back to her. I will not promise you a house tonight. Good. I will not hand you a check and disappear. Better. I will ask my foundation team to identify legitimate local organizations already doing emergency support. If there is a way to pilot what you are describing without pretending we invented the problem, we can fund it. Ronke nodded. And my business. I know a small enterprise support program we fund through an independent partner. I can make sure your application is seen. Seen? Seen. Not approved. Ronke's eyes narrowed. Bode held her gaze. If I order them to approve you, then the first lesson I learned from you lasts less than 1 week. Ronke smiled. Okay. I can also cover the clinic expense and the wages you lost directly. Those are costs you incurred because of me. That I will accept. And temporary housing while you search. Ronke thought. If it is temporary and I choose the place, agreed. And no cameras, agreed. No article about how you rescued me from poverty. Bode looked offended. I would never use that phrase. Your people might, he nodded reluctantly. Fair. Ronke wiped her hands. Then she said, There is one more thing. Bode sighed dramatically. I knew it. If your people ever want to tell my story, they ask me first. Before deck, before headline, before orange blouse. His face became serious. Yes, and if I say no, then no. Ronke looked at him for a long moment. Okay, that should have settled it. But organizations are slower to learn than people. 3 days later, Ronke received an email she almost ignored. She rarely checked email unless a bank alert forced her to. Most of her customers used WhatsApp. Formal messages usually meant bills, job applications she had forgotten about, or somebody trying to sell training she could not afford. This one came from the enterprise program Bode had mentioned. Application invitation, not approval, not congratulations. An invitation. Ronke opened it twice to make sure. The form asked questions she had never written down before. Average weekly orders, estimated detergent cost per kilogram of laundry, rent, power, water, seasonal variation. Equipment failure risk, projected revenue if capacity increased. Ronke stared at the screen. Then she laughed. So this is how people make suffering enter spreadsheet. Simi looked over her shoulder. What does that one mean? They want to know how much I spend on detergent. Tell them too much. They want number. Then write very too much. Ronke pushed her away. For the next week, the application became another job. She counted loads. She went through old transfer alerts. She asked Mr. Akinyele whether she could look at electricity and generator expenses for comparison. He became suspicious until she explained. You want to leave me? I have wanted to leave you many times. I mean business. So do I. Mr. Akinyele sat down. For a moment, Ronke expected anger. Instead, he looked at the pressing table. I always knew you would open your own place. Ronke blinked. That sounds like something people say after. It is true. Why did you never increase my pay? He pointed at her. This is why encouragement is dangerous. She laughed. Then he gave her the numbers, not all of them. Enough. He also gave her something she had not asked for, a handwritten note stating that she had managed customer intake and finishing work for years without missing stock. Ronke read it twice. You wrote this? I can write English. I know. I am surprised you used it for good. Go before I tear it. The enterprise program assigned Ronke a business advisor named Grace, who did not care that Bode Coker knew her. That was obvious from the first meeting. Your projected revenue is too optimistic, Grace said. Ronke frowned. I can take more customers with 2 machines. Yes. But where will those customers come from? People need laundry. People need food too. That does not mean every restaurant survives. Ronke sat back. She disliked Grace immediately. By the third meeting, she respected her. Grace forced her to separate hope from calculation. How many customers could she realistically serve? What if power failed for 2 days? What if one machine broke? Would she keep money aside for repairs? Would she mix household money with business money? What would she charge for express service? Did she need a generator, or could she begin with fewer machines and better scheduling? Ronke went home with a headache and a better plan. That mattered. Because help that leaves you dependent is expensive in another way. Bode called twice during that period. He did not ask how much she had been approved for. He asked how the application was going. The first time Ronke complained about Grace. The second time she defended Grace. Bode laughed. You have moved from enemy to advocate quickly. She is still wicked. Competent wickedness can be useful. Please don't quote yourself. I was not planning to. Meanwhile, the safe night idea had started moving. Slower than headlines. Faster than Ronke expected. Bode's foundation team contacted 3 community organizations in Ibadan that already worked with vulnerable adults. Emergency referrals and short-term support. Instead of announcing a new center immediately, they invited staff from those groups to a practical design session. Ronke was invited too. She nearly refused when she saw Sade's name on the email. Then she remembered the shelter had been her idea. Avoiding a room because one person had annoyed her would be childish. So she went. The meeting was not glamorous. No cameras. No stage. 6 plastic water bottles. A whiteboard. Too much air conditioning. A social worker named Faith explained why Just Give People a Bed was not a program. You need intake rules, Faith said. You need safeguarding. You need a plan for people who are intoxicated, people who are injured, people who are violent, people who are confused, women with children, people who need longer-term referral. Ronke listened. A man from another organization added, and do not make identification the gate for every person. Some people need help precisely because their documents are missing, but you still need a way to record who came in and assess risk. Sad took notes. Sat at the end of the table, not at the head. Ronke noticed that too. At one point, he suggested a large purpose-built facility. Faith shook her head. That will take too long and cost too much to prove a concept. Bode opened his mouth, closed it. Ronke smiled. He caught her. What? Nothing. You are enjoying this. Small. They settled on something more modest, funding additional overnight capacity through an existing community organization with trained staff, basic security, referral relationships, and a limited pilot period. No giant building, no plaque, just beds and process. Useful before impressive. After the meeting, Sade approached Ronke near the lift. Can I speak with you? Ronke glanced at the closed doors. You are already speaking. Sade exhaled through her nose. I deserved that. Ronke waited. I want to show you something before it goes anywhere. Ronke's stomach tightened. What? A revised public information concept. Not about you specifically. About the pilot. You already made it? A draft. Internal only. Ronke folded her arms. You want my approval. I want your opinion. That is different. Yes. Ronke followed her back into the conference room. Sade opened a laptop. The first slide was clean. Safe night pilot. Then came statistics from the partner organizations, descriptions of referral gaps, basic program aims. Ronke relaxed slightly. Then Sad clicked again. A short video draft appeared. Bode's voice played over a slow shot of rain on a city road. A stranger once gave me shelter when I had no way to prove who I was. Ronke's face tightened. The next image was not her room. It was a generic doorway. Better. Then the video showed a silhouette of a woman in an orange blouse. Ronke's body went cold. Sad paused the video immediately. That is why I am showing you. Ronke stared at the screen. You said it was not about me. The creative team felt the origin story needed one human reference. An orange woman. It is not your photograph. It is me. Symbolically, that is still me. Sad closed the laptop. Okay, the word came quickly. Ronke looked at her. Okay, what? We remove it. No argument. No explanation. That disarmed Ronke more than defense would have. Sade stood. I am learning. Ronke studied her, slowly. Painfully. Good. Sade laughed. For a moment, the tension eased. Then Ronke asked, why does the public need my pain to care about beds? Sade leaned against the table. They don't, necessarily. Then why do media people keep looking for it? Because a person is easier to remember than a system. So use Bode. Sade smiled. He would hate that. He has money. He will survive. The smile faded into thought. That is not a bad point. Ronke picked up her bag. As she reached the door, Sade said, for what it is worth, the first campaign was my idea. Not the whole team's. Ronke turned. I know. You know? You are the one who asked for the blouse. Sadie covered her face for 1 second. I will hear about that blouse until I retire. If I am around, yes. They both laughed. It would have been easy to end Sade's part there. Lesson learned. Everybody better. But people do not change in one clean line. 2 weeks later, the problem returned in a more serious form. The Coker Group board had approved a major public communications event about Bode's return to work. Investors wanted reassurance. Employees wanted to hear from him. The security team wanted misinformation corrected without disclosing operational details. Sade's team prepared the presentation. This time, Ronke was formally invited to review any material that referred to her before publication. That was progress. She arrived at the corporate office on a Friday afternoon. Bode was already there, in another cobalt suit, arguing with Yusuf about whether he should travel the following week. No, Yusuf said. I was not asking. That is why I am saying no more loudly. Ronke stepped into the room. Professional pessimist, Yusuf turned. His face broke into a grin. Finally, somebody sensible. Bode pointed at both of them. I regret introducing this relationship. The meeting began 10 minutes later. Said presented the revised materials. Most were good. Bode's return. Acknowledgement of the ongoing investigation without speculation. Thanks to medical teams and private citizens who helped. A short explanation of the Safe Night pilot. Then came a slide titled, "From One Room to a New Beginning." Ronke stared. Her photograph appeared on one side, not the dirty room photo. A recent photograph taken with her permission during an enterprise program, orientation. On the other side was an artist's rendering of a laundry storefront that did not yet exist. The caption read, Ronke Adebayo, from struggling laundry worker to entrepreneur. Ronke's pulse began to beat in her throat. Sade spoke quickly. This slide is optional. Ronke, we included it only because the enterprise partner confirmed you had advanced to the final review stage. Nothing says you have received funding. Ronke looked at Bode. He was not smiling. Then she looked back at Saad. Why is my business in his return-to-work event? Because people already know your name. It shows a positive continuation of the story. My application is not a continuation of his story. Sade's jaw tightened. I understand that emotionally, but from a communications perspective, no. The room went quiet. Sade stopped. Ronke stood. She did not raise her voice. That made everybody listen harder. If I fail that application next week, what happens to your slide? Nobody answered. You change entrepreneur to almost entrepreneur. Sade's face shifted. Ronke continued. If I get approved, people will say he gave me business. If I am not approved, people will say I wasted the chance the billionaire gave me. Either way, my work becomes his generosity. She pointed at the rendering. That shop does not exist. It is conceptual, Saad said to you. To somebody watching for 5 seconds, it exists. Bode leaned forward, said, but Ronke lifted one hand. No, let me finish. She turned to Bode now. This is what I meant. Bode's eyes stayed on her. You asked me what would make my life stronger, I answered. I did not ask to become proof that your company is kind. No one moved. Ronke felt her hands trembling and put them flat on the table. Then she asked the question that had been sitting inside her since the first meeting. If I had not helped him, would my life still deserve fixing? Silence. Not corporate silence. Human silence. The kind that comes when everybody in the room suddenly sees the thing they had been stepping around. Ronke looked from Sade to Bode. If the answer is yes, then stop making my future payment for my kindness. Sade's eyes dropped to the slide. Bode closed the presentation folder in front of him. Delete it. Sade nodded. Okay. Not just the slide, Bode said. He looked around the table. No photographs of Ronke. No business update. No reference to her application. If we mention the person who helped me, we say a private citizen assisted me and requested privacy. Ronke watched him. Bode continued. The pilot stands on its own merits. The enterprise program stands on its own process. Neither is a reward story. One of the communications managers shifted. Sir, the human interest element is what media will pick up. Bode looked at him. Then, let them pick up me. Saad covered a smile. The manager looked confused. Sir? I am the one who was found without shoes. Use my face. Apparently it is expensive enough. Yusuf coughed into his hand. Ronke knew he was hiding laughter. Bode turned back to Sade and add the consent standard we discussed for the foundation. No beneficiary image or personal history tied to support without clear separate consent. Sade nodded. That policy draft is already with legal review. Good. Ronke looked at her. You did that? Sade met her eyes. Yes, before today. Yes. Ronke sat down slowly. That mattered. Not because Sade had become perfect, because change had happened when Ronke was not in the room to witness it. That is usually the more honest kind. The meeting continued. The orange silhouette did not return. Neither did the imaginary laundry shop, and when Bode's public event happened the following week, he told the truth in one sentence. When I had no phone, no identification, and no way to prove who I was, ordinary people helped me before they knew my name. Then he moved on. No Ronke on stage, no camera inside her room, no giant check. For once, the story stayed smaller than the person. The enterprise decision came on a Tuesday morning, while Ronke was rinsing school uniforms. Her phone rang from the shelf above the sink. She almost let it ring out, because both hands were covered in soap. Then she saw Grace's name. Ronke wiped one hand on her skirt and answered. Good morning. Ronke, are you sitting down? No, sit. Ronke frowned. Why? Because if I tell you standing, you will start shouting and blame me when you fall. Ronke grabbed the nearest plastic chair. What happened? Your application was approved. For a moment, Ronke heard nothing except water dripping from the uniform sleeve in her hand. Then she said, Approved how? Grace laughed. Approved like approved. For the full amount? Not the full amount you first requested. We adjusted the equipment budget, remember? One industrial washer now, one smaller washer after 6 months, if you meet the performance milestones. Working capital for 3 months. Shop deposit within the approved ceiling. Basic bookkeeping support. Ronke pressed her free hand over her mouth. Grace kept talking because Grace apparently did not believe emotion should interrupt logistics. The funds will not all enter your personal account. Equipment payment goes directly to supplier. Shop-related funds follow documentation. You will need to submit monthly records for the first 6 months. Ronke's eyes filled. Okay, and before you thank anybody, your numbers improved because you did the work. Your first plan would not have passed. Ronke laughed through the tears. I know. Good. Then come tomorrow and sign. After the call, Ronke sat for another minute. Then she stood and went back to rinsing uniforms. That was the part nobody online would understand. Her life had changed, but the shirts were still wet. The first shop Ronke inspected was too expensive. The second had poor drainage. The third looked perfect until she discovered the landlord wanted a long advance payment that would swallow too much of the approved budget. The fourth was narrow, plain, and set back from a busy road where office workers and families passed daily. It had a proper water connection, enough ventilation, a small storage corner, and space for a pressing table. Ronke stood in the doorway and listened to traffic. This one, she said. Grace looked around. You are sure? Yes, no fancy frontage. I can wash clothes without fancy frontage. Good answer. The signboard came 2 weeks later. Wrong clean care. Simi said the name sounded too serious. Ronke said seriousness paid bills. Mr. Akinyele came on opening morning with a carton of starch and one old iron he claimed still worked perfectly. It only sparks small when current is high, he said. Ronke stared at him. Take it back, ungrateful child. You are trying to burn my new shop. He laughed and left the iron anyway. Ronke hired one assistant part-time, a 26-year-old woman named Esther, who had been doing domestic work irregularly. Ronke did not call her girl. She did not pay her whenever convenient. She wrote the hours down. That was another lesson poverty had taught her. People remembered delayed money more accurately when the money was small. The safe night pilot opened quietly. No ribbon-cutting ceremony. No giant portrait of Bode. The partner organization converted an existing section of its building into a limited overnight facility, with clear intake rules, separate sleeping arrangements, trained staff, basic first aid links, and referral contacts for people who needed longer support. It was not a miracle. It had only a small number of beds. Some nights people still had to be referred elsewhere. Some cases were complicated. One man arrived intoxicated and aggressive and could not stay until staff had arranged a safer intervention. One elderly woman had lost contact with her family and needed more than one night. One young worker had been stranded after losing his bag and simply needed a safe place until morning and help contacting a relative. The program worked because nobody pretended every problem had the same answer. Ronke liked that. Bode visited once before opening. No press. He walked through the rooms with Faith, the social worker, asking questions about staffing, privacy, storage, emergency contacts, and night security. At one point, he stopped beside a simple metal bed. "You know," he said to Ronke, "this mattress is better than yours." Ronke stared at him. "You have money now, and this is how you use your mouth." Faith looked between them, confused. Bode laughed. Ronke shook her head. "You escaped kidnappers only to come and insult furniture. That is why I survived. Pride. Standards." She laughed despite herself. By then, Ronke had moved out of Kemi's compound, not into a mansion, not into a luxury apartment with marble floors and 6 unused bedrooms, into a modest one-bedroom flat closer to the shop, selected by Ronke, and partly supported for the first months, under the temporary arrangement she had agreed with Bode. After that, she would carry the rent herself. The day she moved, Kemi came to the old room. Ronke was packing the last plastic basin. Kemi stood in the doorway for several seconds before speaking. "So you are really going?" Ronke looked around at the bare room. "You gave me notice." Kemi shifted. "I know. There were many things she could have said. She could have apologized. She could have defended herself again. She could have asked whether Ronke could introduce her to Bode. Instead, she said, "I heard you opened a shop." "Yes." "Congratulations." "Thank you." Kemi looked at the mattress. "That man really slept here." Ronke smiled. "He really did." Kemi shook her head, half amazed, half embarrassed. "If somebody told me that night..." Ronke stopped tying the basin. "That is the problem." Kemi looked at her. "What? If somebody had told you he was rich, you would have treated him differently." Kemi's face tightened. Ronke did not say it cruelly. That made it harder to reject. "Maybe," Kemi admitted. Ronke nodded. "Me too, maybe. That is why I am glad I did not know." Kemi frowned. "Why?" "Because now I know the decision was mine." Kemi looked down. After a moment she said, "I was afraid of trouble." "I know. I was also rude." Ronke waited. Kemi sighed. "I was rude, yes." Kemi almost smiled. "You will not help me make apology easy." No, this time Kemi did smile. "I am sorry." Ronke looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you." That was all. No hug, no sudden friendship, no promise that everything was forgotten. Some relationships do not need reunion. They need a clean ending. 3 months after the night of the rain, Ronke stood inside her shop near closing time. The place smelled of clean fabric, warm metal, and the faint lemon scent of detergent. One machine was finishing its last cycle. Esther had gone home. A row of pressed shirts hung in clear garment covers along the wall. Ronke opened the day's notebook and checked the figures. Revenue, expenses, cash set aside for repairs, wages, rent not glamorous, beautiful. Her phone buzzed. Bode. She answered on speaker while folding a bedsheet. "Good evening, richest man alive," he groaned. "I told you I hate that phrase. That is why I use it. You are a difficult woman, you survived. I called to tell you the pilot completed its first month. How many people?" He gave her the number. Ronke stopped folding. "That many?" "Yes. Any serious incident?" "2 difficult nights. Faith will explain better. But no major safety failure." Ronke nodded, even though he could not see her. "And they are extending?" "For another 6 months while they collect proper data." "Good." Bode paused. "There is one argument." "What?" "Some people want to name the program after you." Ronke dropped the sheet. "No, I already said that. And they asked me to ask you." "No, I predicted that." "Then why did you call?" "Because consent works better when the person actually gets to say no." Ronke smiled. "You are learning. Slowly, painfully. That line belongs to Sade. She can collect royalty." They laughed. Bode's voice became quieter. "Ronke, I have thought many times about that night." "Which part?" "You leaving your own room." Ronke folded the sheet again. "I have thought about it too. Would you do it again?" She did not answer quickly. Bode waited. Finally, Ronke said, "Not exactly." He sounded surprised. "No? I would still help. But now I know more. I would call more people. Ask more questions. Try the shelter first, if it existed. I would not pretend kindness means ignoring risk." Bode was quiet. That is not the answer people would expect from the hero of the story. "Good thing I am not a hero. What are you?" Ronke looked around her small shop. A woman who had one room and gave it away. For one night. That night was enough. Ronke smiled. "Yes, enough for one night." The same words, different meaning now. After the call, Ronke switched off the pressing iron and unplugged it. She checked the socket twice. Some habits should survive success. She locked the detergent cabinet, counted the day's cash, closed the notebook. Then she stepped outside and pulled down the shop shutter halfway. Beside the door was a small, laminated card Faith had given her. "Need a safe place tonight?" Underneath was the number for the local Safe Night program and 2 referral contacts. No picture of Ronke, no picture of Bode, no gold lettering. Just information. The bottom corner had started to curl away from the wall. Ronke pressed it flat with her thumb. A young man waiting at the nearby bus stop glanced at the card, read it, then looked away. Maybe he would never need it. Maybe somebody would. That was enough. Ronke pulled the shutter down and locked it. Across the road, evening traffic moved through Ibadan in impatient bursts. A bus conductor shouted for passengers. Somebody nearby was frying plantain. A child was crying because his mother had refused to buy something from a roadside tray. Life had returned to being ordinary. Ronke liked it that way. People later told the story in many versions. Some said a poor woman gave a beggar her only room and discovered he was the richest man alive. That version was true as far as it went. But it was not the part Ronke carried with her. She remembered the cracked lips before the name, the borrowed slippers before the cobalt suit, the man who could not prove he mattered before the world rushed to prove how much he owned. And she remembered something else, too. Helping another person does not require surrendering your judgment. Accepting help does not require surrendering your voice. Gratitude does not buy ownership of somebody's story. Money can open doors. It can fund beds, machines, buildings, medicines, and second chances. But money cannot decide what a person is worth. That decision happens much earlier, sometimes under a leaking roof, sometimes beside a road in the rain, sometimes before anybody knows the name. Ronke turned toward the bus stop, her orange bag over one shoulder. Then she went home.